Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome to eHeroes, the interview series for entrepreneurs. And my latest eHero is Adam Hommey. Today, we're going to talk about Groundhog Day and book launches and some other things. I'm hoping that you guys are going to find this awesome because I know Adam has a tremendous amount of knowledge that he likes to share. So welcome, Adam.
Rob, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on your show here. I love your What's Trending episodes, and you and I have been, gotten to be really good friends over the past 4 years. So this is an awesome thing. So thank you again. And maybe if we're lucky, my cats will show up.
Well, yeah, anybody who knows Adam knows that all his employees are cats.
My personal assistants.
Yeah. So, Adam, let's talk about Groundhog Day. And this is not the movie, Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, although that was an excellent movie. This is a concept. So let's talk to or share the concept with the listeners.
What I've liked to say for a long time, Rob, to my clients and to the world is that Groundhog Day is an event, not a business strategy. What we see happen way too often are a couple of different things. So when I look at groundhog behavior and I look at Groundhog Day, I think of a couple of different things that seem to be cyclical when it comes to entrepreneurs. The first of which is I have been an entrepreneur for 14 years. So I've had my own ups and downs, and I've seen other people go through the cycles of business and life. And what I noticed for too many people, and even myself at certain points, was we would go on an expansion. Like, you start a new line of business, you raise your rates, you bring in some great new clients, but it eventually fizzles out and you find yourself at that exact same place you were before. You have the same level of profitability or lack of profitability. You have the same margins, you have the same revenues, and many times you find yourself doing the same old stuff. And I mean in terms of how you manage your day, the types of projects and clients you're taking on, the type of business you're doing. So it's like Groundhog Day over and over and over again. The second way I look at groundhogs is you look at the behavior of the common groundhog, that cute little ground squirrel. And what folks who study this know is that groundhog burrows are oftentimes deeper than your house. So it's altogether possible, Rob, and I don't want you to, lay up nice thinking about this. You can have a groundhog burrow under your house. And I know you're in your basement right now. That's how deep they go. And these things can be 14 feet long, and they can have different chambers on them. I mean, just like you have rooms in your house, the groundhog burrows often have the room for the kids. They have the place where they eat. They have the place where they do their business. They have the love shack. I mean, it's pretty intricate when they study these things. And to dig one of these burrows, they often displace hundreds of pounds of dirt, You hear these stories of farmers that are out in their fields with their tractors, and all of a sudden the tractor tips over sideways, right into a groundhog burrow that was closer to the surface. So why we should pay attention to that is because we think about there are a lot of things that are often right beneath the surface of our business that we don't always recognize are there. Just like you could have a groundhog burrow under your house. It could be causing instability in your foundation, but you have no way of knowing that because it's very subtle. But it's still impacting what's going on in ways that you cannot see. So we often have things in our businesses, whether it's how we deal with our prospects, how we deal with our customers, the words that we use, how our language sometimes creates subtle barriers, how we approach our teams and the people who work with us and support us and vice versa. Just these little things. Oftentimes business strategists talk about the big picture, but it's the little things that will trip you up. It's the memory of what happened when you're 9 years old that's impacting your behavior today, that you don't even know you have the memory until you surface it. And part of what I do is I look at that from the perspective of the groundhog burrow, surfacing what's going on down there, what's dug in deep. So when you bring out all that dirt, you surface all that dirt, you find yourself with a more effective and powerful business in life.
Yeah, and I believe that pricing is one of those holes that a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't know how to fix, so it's always about, well, I need to be the cheapest, or I shouldn't raise my prices because the market won't bear it.
I know what you mean, and I've gone through that cycles of that myself. And there was a time when when I used to have a web development firm back in the 2000 aughts, I think that's what you call the time between 2000 and 2009. I don't know the technical term of it, but that first decade, right? And I at one point basically doubled my rates, and some folks came to me and said, you know what, I can no longer afford you. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that's perfectly fine. We have till the end of the month you're paid up on. Let's wrap things up. Because the funny thing is, and I've seen this happen with other folks, the hypnotherapists that I see, they were featured on an episode of MTV's Teen Mom. Between the one time I saw them and then I went back several months later. Between my two visits, they were on MTV's Teen Mom, and I'm coming back and I'm saying, what the heck happened to your prices? They more than doubled. It's because they got the attention from being on that very popular show. And when I met with them, because I paid the rates because they're really good. And when I met with them, they said, yeah, it went crazy. And it seems like when we raised our rates, we ended up getting even more inquiries. Because I can fill in this blank. Because they recognize these are the ones that got on TV. These are the best. These are the celebrities. I'll gladly pay more to work with the top gun.
Yeah, and the thing is, entrepreneurs are afraid to take that leap. You know, and I've seen it too. And I experienced it long ago when I had a service-oriented business. And you know, those who follow me know that 20-some years ago, I had a cleaning business. And when I first got into the business, my slogan was, we clean your carpet, not your wallet. I wanted everybody to know. The problem with being cheap, that's all I attracted was people that didn't have any money.
Right.
So when I started raising my rates and I tripled them, I mean, I raised them 30, 40% higher than my competition. I had clients that had money that were coming to me because they knew that I was better than anybody else. And that's what they wanted. You know, but we catered to them. We gave them more value than the other services. And I soon discovered that I was making way more money doing less effort than when I had cheap prices.
You know, we spoke about this because in the community where I live, every year as part of our contract, they come in and clean our carpets for us. And you mentioned when I was on Facebook and I commented, I said, wow, this was done in 20 minutes. I thought it took all day. And you jumped in on that thread and you said, oh, so they did the old splash and dash, huh? Mm-hmm. And you compared that to the service you offered. And I said, yeah, well, you know, maybe I'll get my own people next time. That's what's in the contract, so that's what I'm going to take. I'll just go somewhere else for a couple hours while it dries out. But you said that, hey, if we'd have been in there, your carpets would have been dry and your furniture would have been back before we even left.
Yeah, you know, there's a big difference. And I think entrepreneurs need to know that, you know, if you're going to raise your prices, then you need to have that position out there. So as you were telling us about your psychoanalyst who was on
hypnotherapist.
Hypnotherapist.
Yes.
Two different people.
Very much so. Very much.
Yeah, he got the national exposure of being on this show. That gave him the authority and the credibility. So he could charge whatever he wanted, and all those people who saw him on that show are going to gravitate towards him. And prices, you know, he's going to say, well, these are my prices now. And people are like, well,
right. Well, their solution was already niche. It's actually a male-female couple that do the therapy in tandem. It's there's a very technical term for it. So they are already not your run-of-the-mill hypnotherapist, but just that exposure on that very popular TV show on MTV had their phones ringing off the hook. And the way their website is worded, they said, due to some changes as a result of our recent appearance on MTV's Teen Mom, we've had to make some adjustments to our schedule. That's how they worded it. But you and I both understand what was going on. Things blew up for them in a very good way.
You know, and that's, you don't need national coverage to raise your prices. You just need some confidence. And that national coverage did give these people confidence to raise their prices, but any entrepreneur out there can raise their prices if they have the confidence to do so. But that's the problem, is that I think a lot of them are stuck. They're stuck in their rut. You know, for them, it is Groundhog Day all over again because they just don't know where to go from there.
Yeah, I'm going to, I need to give one of my coaches, Jim Palmer, the Dream Business Coach, full credit for this. But here's what he shares, and this is brilliant. When it comes to wanting to raise your rates, when it comes to wanting to be a coach, a consultant, or a mentor rather than the hands-on person who does it, the question you need to ask yourself is, what have I done to earn the right to be here? And that's not saying, well, who the hell are you? That's saying, take a moment and think about it. What have you done to earn the right? And when you're a good service provider, or you're on your way up and you're getting a lot of great things done, you're making a lot of clients happy, you're making a big difference for others, write that stuff down, because that's how you earn the right. And when you have that written down, when you have testimonials on your website, like my website has a ton of testimonials on it. Some of them are actually very old, and some pertain to things I don't even do anymore. But the fact is, I leave them up because these are all steps in my progression that have earned me the right. And when you can look at that and you can rattle off the top of your head, example, 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 that's a piece of building the confidence that says, hey, you know what? You in the mirror, you're okay. You need a raise.
Speaking of authority, we're going to talk about books. Now, some of you know that I've written a few books, some social media on SEO, on podcasting, weight loss, motivation. But Adam's coming out with a book, but Adam helps other people launch their books. So, Adam, let's talk about the process there, because my process is probably a little different than yours. But, I think that you have that down to a science.
Well, you and I do things differently, because I believe you're involved in book launches as well. So the way I'm going to preface my answer is there's a couple different ways we can define a book launch. And for the purposes of today's conversation, I'm going to mention two. One of the strategies, and this is the one that my company specializes in, is where you create a launch and you sell a bunch of copies to your house list. You get affiliates or partners involved, and you get as many people as possible to push out on the same day to drive up your numbers. And the purpose of doing that is to let the world know that you're a published author, and you create buzz around it. You schedule a bunch of podcasts and radio show and Facebook Live and Zoom type interviews like the one we're doing, and you do your best to have them all come out on or about the same day or within the same couple day time frame line. So next thing you know, everybody's looking around and they're saying, who's this Rob Anspach who's out there with all this book? And why have I not heard of him? What rock have I been living under that I do not know who this man is? And that raises your authority profile. It gets people interested. And now you have that credentializer in the form of your book that when you go seeking speaking engagements, a very great way to use a book. And folks, take this home with you. This is really good. Because for those of you who want to do a lot more speaking, whether it's in your local market or you want to go regional or national, is if you approach organizations and conferences and such and say, hey man, how can I get on your stage? Sometimes that works, and a lot of times it does. And sometimes it's like basically you're asking a woman to marry you on the first date. Another thing that you can try that I've seen work for some people is you approach these same organizations, you approach these conferences, these seminars, and you say, hey, I just want to let you know I'm doing a book tour for my new book, and was wondering if I could share that with your community. And so now that increases your chances of getting on a lot more stages in the front of a lot more audiences, and they are joining you in a movement rather than graciously allowing you space on their stage. So that's another thing. So that's type one of a book launch. Type two is what we see a lot more frequently, especially in the social media stage. And the best way to describe it is where you get a bunch of people to buy the Kindle for 99 cents all in one day. So you get bestseller status in an Amazon or a B&N category or something along those lines. I believe in many cases you can actually have both, because what I've seen some people do is they'll do the bestseller first and get as many, just sell a bunch of Kindle copies, get that bestseller badge, then go back to their graphic designer, have the badge added to the design, and then they'll do the house launch, the list launch, what I frequently see happen is like for a limited time, maybe 10 days, you pick it up for free, just pay the $7.95 shipping and handling. These days, I'm telling people do $7.95, in some cases even $8.95, because the old number of $6.95 barely and often doesn't even cover create space fees. So you have to be realistic. I mean, I understand the goal of this is to lay the groundwork for the big money rather than the big money itself, but you can't be paying out the nose.
Right.
Not when an extra dollar solves it.
And here's the thing, though, also, is that if you're going to use services such as Simon & Schuster, they do have a marketing team. Although their marketing team, and this is not in any way, shape, or form to say that they're bad, I just find that as an entrepreneur, you need to do your own marketing as well. You need to market to your own list. You need to get out there, boots on the ground, and get your team to plug for you.
Right.
Because,
Well, it's very true. A lot of times when you do book deals, you do have marketing, but ultimately in the end, and I've known this for years, you are responsible for the success of your own book. You still need to do your own marketing. Maybe they'll put you on some stages. Maybe they'll put you on some radio shows. Maybe they'll get you on some mainstream media. Maybe that's part of the deal for the big dollars you're talking about there, but still in the end, it's up to you. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, look in the dollar bin of your local bookstore and see how many of those even left over from, say, the 2016 presidential election. Because another thing is you see everybody who even, dreams about running for president, it's like a requirement that you write a book. How many of those books are now available for $1?
Right. Because
the fact is, they ain't running no more, so they're not doing anything to promote that book, so its value goes, I mean, the only difference is if you're President Trump, who has a catalog of books going back to 1987 that are mostly on business topics, because that was his previous career. But outside of that, you see these fly-by-night books. So this leads to another thing, which is, you are probably not going to write just one book. You're probably not going to launch just one book. So this first book I'm coming out, I'm going to be candid. I'm going to get totally open with your audience. It may not be perfect. It's going to be a damn good book, and I'm putting some of my best stuff in that thing. I can assure you of that. But to a certain extent, I'm going to do things my own way because I want to try a few things in terms of design that are unconventional in book design. And Rob, I've seen you do some interesting things with your clients as well that are different from the norm of a business book. So, my layout's going to be different. My paragraphs are going to be shorter. You're going to see a lot more bullet points, some exercises and things like that. So it's going to be a fun read. I'm not worried about my paragraphs being yay long, making sure I use the exact same font or what have you. I mean, it's going to be a fun book.
You know what? In my book, Share, I think I broke all the rules, and I had publishers laugh at me. But you know what? I'm the one who published it. I put it out in my own label. It did well. It sold, and people were like, this is the easiest social media book I ever read.
Rob, Share. Let me tell you about Share. When you sent that to me in 2013, that is truly one of those books. You can open it to any page. Read what's on that page. Just do that, and you'll move ahead. You don't have to even take time to read it. I mean, when I sat down and read it, I not only was able to read it, but I was able to understand it in about 45 minutes. You think that changed a few lives?
Just a little.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing. When we write books, write them so that everybody can understand them.
Yeah.
Write them from your heart. It doesn't matter if you break the rules. It's your book. Do it your way.
And you know what? But the point where I was going with this, Rob, and I'll get right to the point, is if it doesn't work the first time, release a second edition a year later, or write a different book. What we do see sometimes, I'm not with everybody, so I'm not saying this is everyone, but I have noticed with some folks, they may have 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 books out there, but it's basically the same damn book. Just a different title and a different cover story, but the meat of it is the same thing. And you know what the best part is? They have fans who have read all 15 of those books and love each one of them for different reasons. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what part of that reason is I could pick up your Share book or maybe your No Experience Necessary book, both of which I've read and are excellent. And I've read them before. I could this afternoon say, you know what? I'm going to take an hour. I'm going to go back and read Rob's No Experience Necessary book again. And it will give me different information than it did the last time I read it because I'm reading it from a different place. So yeah, if you have 15 books and the body of them are substantially the same thing in a different order, that's fine because each of those, when your fans purchase each of those 15 books and read each of those 15 books, they're going to be in a different place in their business and life, and the material will have different meaning and relevance to them, so it will be fresh and new. So just as the late Dan Poynter would say, books are judged by their covers.
And that's
so do a hell of a cover.
That's why I prefer an actual book. I mean, yeah, I sell a lot of books on Kindle, but I'm still not. To me, I don't know. I have these devices, and
Mm-hmm.
I have books on them, but I never hardly ever read books on Kindle.
Yeah, I get messages, and and I'm going to be doing this actually when I do my bestseller version of launches. I'm actually going to get on social media and I'm going to message people. I'm telling you, I'm going to do this because people have done it to me, and I've had no problem with it. And say, hey, my book's coming out today. Can you go pick up a copy? People will actually come to me, but see, they earn the right to do that. And this is key, and this ties into what you teach, Rob. They earn the right to come to me and say, hey, you know what, it's February 2nd. I really need you to buy my book. I'm trying to hit bestseller, because they've been social with me, because they've been giving to me, because they've been friendly to me, because I know that my relationships with them, even if it's just, back and forth on social media threads, are valuable. They earn the right to come to me and say, hey, brother, can you spare $1?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna do that too. And I expect to get some sales from it. I mean, I buy a lot of Kindle books, but the funny thing is I know how to use Kindle. So what I frequently say to them is as I say, you know what? I understand what you're doing here. You're going for bestseller. I'm going to pick up a copy of your Kindle, but I don't have a Kindle. Can I get a paperback too? Or I'll ask the question, just to confirm, does it have to be Kindle, or if I do a paperback, will that count towards your total? Usually I have to get the Kindle, so I'll just buy both. I mean, what's the big deal? It's $1 more. And hey, maybe someday I get a Kindle and suddenly I have 100 books right off the bat.
Yeah. So when does your book come out?
The date is Groundhog Day 2018. I mean, if I blow that date, I got to change And this is just a little lesson for folks. I'm behind on getting it together. I'm going to tell you that in complete candor, because I got really sick with this bug that's been going around over the holiday season when I was supposed to finish assembling it. But let me tell you a little bit about the process for putting this together. For 2 years now, I've done a series of different blogs that were topic-based, where I put together, there was no conversion goal for these blogs. It was just, I have things grinding my gears and I got to get it out there. So they were aside from the marketing I do for my primary business. And they're also a great process for helping me to discover what my brilliance and passion areas were as we move into the new year, and also what people jump on and relate to, what they respond to. And so the material for this book basically exists, and I've designed the framework it's going to fit within. So the acronym and the structure and what you as the reader are going to get out of this. I just need 2 days to put it together. So I'm actually working on that now, at the time that we're doing this interview, so that we'll be in a position to have that ready for y'all. Now, my lesson to that is, if you're concerned about you don't have a book to write, let me give you one more example. In November 2016, I was featured in the anthology Journeys to Success, the Millennial Edition, which was an international Amazon bestseller, so I wear the label. And it's part of a whole series of books called Journey to Success. Now, in one of my masterminds, one of the other members of the mastermind was approached to contribute to another Journeys to Success book. And she typed it in the mastermind Facebook group, and they said, oh, don't do that. Just write your own book, blah, 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 blah. But I said something different. I said, look, what's the investment? Mine was, I think it was like $500 or $750. I mean, it was pocket change, right? I said, this is not one of those you have to pay $10,000. So it's very reasonable. So that's what, a week's billing for one of your smaller clients, number one. Number two, what's the requirement? 3,500 words? That's 7 blog posts. I actually went to her blog, found 7 blog posts, did a word count. It came out to 3,300 words, and told her, do them in this order, spend an afternoon transitioning it, turn it in, there's your chapter, done. And as a result of that, you get to wear the label, and you'll be involved in a community of people interested in this topic. You get 1 client off of this. Knowing your rates, you're going to have 20 to 1 ROI. So my lesson to your audience is, you probably already have basically the book. It could be a short book. It doesn't have to be a novel. It can be, my recommendation usually is just thick enough so that when you put it on your bookshelf, the spine is noticeable. I hate these books that are way thin and they get buried. You got to at least have it thick enough so you have a spine. And what I've seen one person do, Jessica Rhodes, who's the author of the Interview Connections Rock the Podcast book, part of the way that she added value to the Interview Connections book, which really is a step-by-step exactly how to launch a podcast and rock it from both sides of the mic, is she included the transcript of an interview she did with this guy. I was very honored to be featured. And I love that book on its own merits, but I love it even more because a transcript of an interview I did with Jessica is one of the bonuses in the book. So that's a great way you can do it. If you've done an awesome interview, or maybe 2 or 3 awesome interviews with somebody, there's your 3 bonus chapters. There's your thickness to get you the spine you need. Again, I'm revealing all these little tricks just to show you that you can do it.
Well, we're shortly running out of time. So,
Yeah.
Adam, tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a couple things I'm gonna urge people to do. One of which is I invite everybody to tune into the Business Creators Radio Show every Tuesday. We have great episodes. Rob, you've been on the Business Creators Radio Show. I'm sure we're going to cycle you back this year because we like having you on. So I encourage you to tune into that. That's a great way that we can help you win at the game of business and marketing very quickly. If you'd like to check out my website, businesscreatorsinstitute.com, but I'm going to give you a URL that's going to stick even more in your mind. And I'm just going to put it out there. Want to chat with me for a few minutes? As Rob knows, I schedule every minute of my life. And sometimes Rob's like, come on, man, just tell me when. Like, Rob, schedulewithadam.com. Just do it and watch how fast you get in contact with me. It works. Schedulewithadam.com. Even if we haven't met, just go to schedulewithadam.com, fill it out, it's schedule once, and just tell me what you want to talk about. I'll give you 20 minutes. You know, let's see what we can do. Maybe we can support each other somehow. Maybe we can just bat back and forth a couple ideas. Hell, we can talk about cats for 20 minutes. I don't care. I mean, this stuff, you may have noticed earlier that Princess Stella was climbing up on my chair back there. I was doing this when she was climbing, so she made a cameo appearance. But seriously, that's my offer to your audience. Check out the Business Creators Radio Show and go to schedulewithadam.com if you want to chat with me. If you go to schedulewithadam.com, that's going to put you on my main website anyway, so you can just go up to the nav afterwards and look around.
So there you go, folks. I want to thank everyone for listening to another awesome episode of eHeroes. I'm Rob Anspach. You can visit me at anspachmedia.com. And Adam gave you all his great information. Just go to schedulewithadam.com. And thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Adios.